Good evening to everyone in Japan and good morning to everyone in Switzerland. Thank you for joining us at the Swisstech in Japan 2021, targeting Beyond Zero Society, Swiss solutions towards decarbonization.
Many countries, including Switzerland and Japan, are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions to zero by the year 2050. One of the keys to achieving this are new technologies that will remove CO2 from the Earth's atmosphere. My country has a strong foundation for achieving the net zero target. Today, we will present to you 3 prime examples of these foundations.
Another option is we produce hydrogen from the renewable energy in summer, and we store that hydrogen in cavities underground. However, in order to store all that hydrogen, we would have to build about 30 times the Gotthard base tunnel, and this is an enormous challenge. Now we can also use the renewable energy in summer and produce hydrogen from it, capture CO2, and then synthesize fuels from which are CO2 neutral, because all the CO2 is from the atmosphere. If we plan a system like that, we would have to cover about 4.5% of Switzerland with photovoltaics. That's a lot. That's 12 times the roof area in Switzerland. And then all the rest is technical feasible. And then we produce synthetic fuels, synthetic oil, and this can be easily stored already with today's technology.
There is the sun to liquid, is where you go basically to the syngas from water and CO2 by using very high temperature generated. And what we do use is we use a concentrated solar system to achieve very high temperatures, and we use this mirror to concentrate the solar radiation. On the top of the tower is where the magic happens, and where via thermochemical process driven by this heat, we split water, CO2, and sometimes methane in synthesis gas, which is then successfully transformed into liquid fuel via standard processes. So the next step is really to build a commercial plant that will produce the fuels on a commercial scale, and then it will need to go fast. And we want to target by 2030 to satisfy 50% of the European jet fuel consumption, and then scale aggressively to 2040 to reach 50%. This is what is needed if we really want to achieve net zero by 2050.
To start my presentation, I would like to show you a little movie so that you get an impression how direct air capture works.
The air is drawn into a collector with a fan, and CO2 is captured on the surface of a highly selective filter material that sits inside the collector. Next, once the filter material is full of CO2, the collector closes and is heated to around 100 degrees Celsius. Using the carb fix method, the captured CO2 is then mixed with water and pumped deep underground, where it mineralizes and can be stored permanently for thousands of years.
So what you see here is one side of the Orca plant. So you see a lot of ventilators drawing the CO2 through the collectors. So remember the movie we have just seen at the beginning of my presentation. Why do we need carbon dioxide removals and also direct air capture? So net zero means that you're not emitting more CO2 to the atmosphere than you're removing from the atmosphere. But this is not enough. In the second half of this century, we need to become carbon negative. But how to get there? In a first step, and there's no way around that, we need to reduce our CO2 emissions as much as possible. So traditionally with carbon offsets, I'm emitting 1 ton of CO2 and I'm paying someone not to emit. Carbon removal, on the other side, is when I'm still emitting this 1 ton of CO2, I take care that the same amount of CO2 is removed again from the atmosphere. So basically we need to have both, but we also need to do both in a good way.